I kept trying to, I'm like, okay, I gotta work on this. So the next day I took the day off work and I went to go to see a, I think it was like a family doctor, more of a family doctor. And so I went and talked to them. I said, what happened? They were like, okay, you probably had a panic attack, and you're probably dealing with some anxiety from that. So I'm going, okay, well, what do you do for that? And they prescribed me Xanax, but I was like, oh my gosh, like you always hear like so many things about it and you don't really know. So, and like you hear it's really addictive, so, you know, it caused me to be a little bit nervous to take it. And I took it just to be able to get on the train again, because honestly, I mean, that's how you travel in Chicago, is via the train, and I had my pass, and there's no other way really. So I did that, and then I was still just trying to work to get me to be okay with the train. Like, it was this crazy thing that like every time I got on the train, I freaked out. And it was like, so I started slowly doing me going to like a little bit of a train ride, getting off, coming back on, getting off. It was just like, it was a lot to try. All in all, it kind of did something with my brain where I was just more, I mean, I've always been like kind of like a nervous worrywart type of person, but I was definitely more aware of my anxiety, which kind of drove me a little bit, you know, not crazy, but just, it kind of made me very, like skittish. So in dealing with that, I ended up, well, I was not happy at my job at the time, and then I decided that I was going to move back to my home, and that way at least I can like tackle this thing hardcore. I had like gone to my doctor beforehand, because I'm like, I gotta deal with this, and then even, you know, I could always come back to Chicago, but I gotta go deal with this, and I need support of my family. Although I had great support in Chicago, I really needed like my family and like just to help get me through this, that would deal with my like anxious mess of a personality at the time. So then I ended up coming back home, and I'm like, okay, I gotta deal with this anxiety. How am I gonna do this? And honestly, the process did not, I mean, it was very short. I mean, it was not very short. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said it was short. But the process was not very short, and it took a lot of trial and error. So one thing that I changed was I noticed that when I would go out to the bar, I would be like nervous, because it was like, I don't know why, like I honestly, I can't explain to you. Like, I mean, it was anxiety in its fullest. Like, you are just nervous and stressed out for no apparent reason. Like, you have no reason to, your life could be fine and you have no reason to stress out, but you do. So I was at the bar one night, and I noticed that when I drank one beer, like nothing. And then when I drank two, all of a sudden my anxiety and nervousness went away. And I was like, like, oh no, this is not good. Like, is this, and I started being like, is this how people like drink so much? Because those kind of, like, maybe everyone's a nervous mess. And I don't know. But for me personally, it was causing me to not be stressed, and that made me nervous. And I'm like, no, I can't have this crutch to get over my anxiety. I need to stop it. So I had stopped drinking, and still I don't drink at all really. I mean alcohol in general, like even in college when I did it, I always got dizzy. I never was able to, I was always like a lightweight, even though like everyone would be like, oh my gosh, you're such a tall person, how are you a lightweight? And I'm like, I know, but I never really liked drinking in the first place, so it wasn't crazy hard for me to stop doing that. And I still have fun when I go out to the bar anyway. So I had cut out drinking, and then I was like, maybe working out, but I noticed that like working out just got my like blood pressure pumping and my heart pumping, and it made me like, if I was like nervous about something, it made me like more anxious and more nervous about them. Like if I had like a stressed out day at my new job, and I didn't know what to do or something, or I was just like, what's my life purpose, as like every mid-20s person I'm sure contemplates a lot, it would just like get my blood pumping and would not stop. So it's not that I stopped working out, I just I didn't do anything. I watched my heart rate for sure. As I mentioned, my panic attack happened on the train. So with that, I kind of had this fear of enclosed spaces still. So kind of what's the word, claustrophobia. I had already planned a trip a year prior to go to Europe with some friends, and it was a 10-day trip. It was gonna be awesome, it's gonna be fun, great friends to go with. And I was like, oh no, like an airplane. So enclosed space, stuck on an airplane for the longest flight I've ever been on. So you can imagine I was a nervous wreck. I then went to my family doctor and I said, hey, I'm going on this trip, it's 10 days, and I am out of medication to help me deal with my anxiety, but I need it, essentially. Just in case though, like, on the prescription bottle, it says take one when needed, which is always something that I was like, oh, maybe I'll write a poem about that, or like, because like a novel's too long, but take one when needed is definitely the definition of managing your anxiety from my perspective, because you should really only take it when you really do need it, and it definitely helps process those stressful situations that you might get yourself into in an emergency. So then I got my medication, and up until the trip I was actually really nervous, and a few days before though I had this dream that I was on an airplane and everything was okay, and it was a huge airplane, and I was just like, what? Like, what is that? Like, but I'm really glad I had it, because honestly that dream really did help me to be kind of more okay with going on this plane. So I ended up going on the trip, and the first plane ride there I ended up being okay. I did need to take my medication beforehand, because I was like, I don't want to have a freak out on the plane, and I'm with my friends and I don't want them to have to stress out either. Again, it's like that embarrassing thing, which I don't quite understand yet, but I'm sure I will eventually. I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, I want to get over that completely, as I'm sure everyone does. But, so I go on the plane, going there is fine. It was actually one of the best flights I've ever had in my life, just because it was very relaxed. I honestly think that I did not need it going there, so because the flight was so easygoing. And then we get there and I started feeling a sore throat, and I'm like, no. Like, so I end up getting sick on this trip, in addition to dealing with my anxiety, and I'm trying to obviously still enjoy myself, and all in all the trip was amazing, and it's one of my favorite trips of all time. But on the trip, we end up going on a train, and I'm like freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, like we're going on a train, so we end up getting on one, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to get off this train, because, again, trying to get over it. So, and we also ended up riding bikes on the trip, which I had a bike accident my freshman year of college, and I hadn't really ridden a bike since, because not that I'm like super nervous too, I mean, I've ridden some like slowly, but I just like, not through the streets of Amsterdam, where riding a bike is like driving a car, and everyone does it, and it's, everyone's going freaky fast. So I ended up getting on the bike, doing fine. But all in all, so this trip just threw things at me left and right. Bullet train, 200 miles per hour. Mind you, I was scared of roller coasters growing up. So like, that's probably what caused a panic attack in the first place, because my like 7-year-old self was like, what the fuck are you doing on a roller coaster type situation, aka the express train that went really fast. Going through everything on the trip and the ride back was fine too. I felt as though the trip actually kicked my anxiety out of me a bit. I wasn't fully great after it, but it definitely was like, no, you're gonna do this. No, you're gonna do this. No, you're gonna do this. You're fine. See, you're fine. And I really appreciated the trip for that, because it really did kick it out of me, I feel. Getting back, continuing on through the year, I started seeing a therapist just to like talk out my feelings, because I was like, why am I stressed out all the time? Why do I get stressed over these little things? And it's like, talking to a therapist, I mean, I think this is becoming something that in society everyone's getting a little bit more comfortable with. It's not this thing that people are like, oh my gosh, you're so crazy. What? Oh, you're too crazy. You need to go see a therapist. It's just somebody to talk to that doesn't have this emotional connection to your life. It's not your parent. It's not your boyfriend or girlfriend. It's just somebody who can look at your problem with a clean head, who's actually trained to help you analyze it and get you to think, oh, maybe that's why I do this. Oh, maybe that's why I do this. Oh, maybe that's why I am the way I am. And you really do figure out a lot about yourself, and I really appreciate it for that. just because there's things that I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, you're right. I am homosexual. No, I already knew that. So I just kept being very self-aware, very, not self-analytical, because that seems a little bit harsh, but just very aware of like what kind of things would cause me to be nervous, and not like tackling each one head on, but being aware, like the drinking thing, or that I'm working out too aggressively. And honestly, I think that the true healing factor of me handling my anxiety and pretty much getting over it is time, because it's time of living, it's time of doing experiences, it's time of screwing on your head correctly after it got completely thrown off. And I can say that time was definitely the big help with that. Patience, of course, is included in that, unfortunately, which patience is always hard. Anxiety is something that everyone's always gonna have to deal with, and the more that you try, the more that you kind of like realize how you're feeling, and looking internally, I think, is the best route to always go. But I hope that me sharing this experience can shed some light into your life maybe, and even if it doesn't, I hope I made you chuckle a little. And feel free to leave any comments below, because I love talking about this stuff. It's something that everyone should be talking about and helping each other with, because we all gotta live in this crazy world that has a lot being thrown at everybody, and we can all help each other, I think.